The day my divorce hearing started, I already knew what everyone believed. According to my ex-husband's family, the entire marriage had ended because of me. They said I was selfish. They said I was difficult. They said I had destroyed the family. By the time the case reached court, their story had spread everywhere. Friends, relatives, even people I barely knew. Everyone seemed convinced that I was the reason the marriage failed. My ex sat across the courtroom, looking calm and confident. His lawyer spoke first. She abandoned the marriage, he said. She caused emotional damage. She pushed him to divorce. Every sentence painted the same picture, that I was the villain. And for a moment, it felt like the judge believed them, until the judge picked up a small stack of papers from the desk in front of him. Then he said something that changed the entire room. Before we continue, the judge said quietly, I think everyone here should hear these messages. The courtroom suddenly became very quiet. My ex-husband shifted in his chair. At first, he still looked confident, like nothing could surprise him. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked down at the printed pages. These messages were submitted as evidence, he said. My ex's lawyer leaned forward slightly. He probably thought they would support their story. But the judge didn't rush. He slowly read the first message out loud. A text from my ex-husband. Don't expect me home tonight. I'm not dealing with your drama again. A few people in the courtroom exchanged glances. The judge continued. Another message. You're lucky I even married you. This time the silence felt heavier. My ex shifted again in his seat. The confidence on his face began to fade. Then the judge turned another page. This next message, he said calmly, was sent 3 days before she filed for separation. He cleared his throat and read it aloud. You should be grateful I haven't left you yet. For the first time, my ex looked nervous. And the judge was only getting started. The judge paused for a moment. The courtroom was so quiet. You could hear pages turning. Then he looked directly at my ex-husband. These messages, he said, appear to show a pattern. My ex's lawyer quickly stood up. Your Honor, messages can be misunderstood. But the judge raised his hand. I'm not finished. Then he read another one. This message had been sent late at night. Stop asking questions. What I do outside this house is none of your business. A few people in the audience shifted uncomfortably. The judge continued. This message was sent 2 weeks later. He read it slowly. If you ever tell anyone about this, you'll regret it. The words hung in the air. Suddenly the story my ex had been telling didn't sound so convincing anymore. The judge placed the page down. Then he looked at my ex again. Would you like to explain these messages? For the first time that morning, my ex didn't have an answer. My ex finally cleared his throat. They're taken out of context, he said quickly. His voice sounded tighter than before. His lawyer nodded beside him. Yes, Your Honor. These are private conversations between a married couple. They don't represent the full situation. But the judge didn't seem convinced. He calmly picked up another page. Context is important, the judge said. That's exactly why I'm reading the full conversation. He adjusted the paper and continued. This time it wasn't just one message. It was an entire exchange. My message appeared first. Please just come home. We need to talk. Then the judge read my ex-husband's reply. I told you already. Stop acting desperate. A quiet murmur moved through the courtroom. The judge kept reading. Another message from me. I'm trying to fix this. Then his response. There's nothing to fix. I've already moved on. My ex suddenly sat up straight. Your Honor. But the judge raised his hand again. We're not finished yet. And the next message he picked up made the entire courtroom freeze. The judge held up the next page. For a moment, he didn't read it. He simply looked toward my ex-husband. This message, he said slowly, was sent the night before she left the house. My ex suddenly looked tense. The judge read the message out loud. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. A few seconds of silence passed. Then the judge continued. And here is her reply. He read my message next. I'm leaving because I don't feel safe anymore. A quiet gasp came from somewhere in the courtroom. My ex's lawyer quickly stood up again. Your Honor, that statement is clearly exaggerated. But the judge interrupted him. Exaggerated? He picked up another page. This next message was sent immediately after that. He looked down and read it clearly. Good. Maybe now I can finally live my life. The room went completely silent. Because suddenly, the story everyone believed was starting to fall apart. The judge slowly placed the page on the desk. Then he looked across the courtroom. Up to this point, he said calmly, I've heard claims that she caused the divorce. He gestured toward the stack of messages. But these conversations tell a very different story. My ex shifted again in his seat. The confidence he had walked in with was completely gone now. His lawyer quickly tried to respond. Your Honor, private arguments between spouses are common. They don't necessarily prove responsibility for the divorce. The judge nodded slightly. That's true. For a second, it sounded like things might turn back in their favor. But then the judge lifted another page. And that's why we should read the rest. My ex's face suddenly went pale. Because this next message wasn't from me. It was a message he had sent to someone else. Someone who wasn't his wife. And when the judge read the name at the top, the entire courtroom leaned forward. The judge looked at the page carefully. Then he spoke. This message was not sent to his wife. A quiet murmur spread through the courtroom. My ex's lawyer immediately stood up. Your Honor, I strongly object to. The judge raised his hand again. This evidence has already been admitted. Then he continued. This message was sent to a contact saved as Emily. My ex's shoulders stiffened. The judge began reading. I told you she believes I'm working late again. A few people in the courtroom exchanged shocked looks. The judge turned to the next message. Once the divorce is done, we won't have to hide anymore. The silence became heavier. My ex stared down at the table. The judge read one more message. She'll probably blame herself anyway. The words echoed in the room. For months, everyone had blamed me. But now, the judge slowly placed the paper down and looked directly at my ex-husband. Would you like to explain this conversation? My ex opened his mouth, but no words came out. The courtroom stayed silent. My ex finally tried to speak. It's not what it looks like, he said quickly. His lawyer nodded beside him. Yes, Your Honor. Private messages can be misinterpreted. But the judge didn't look convinced. He calmly flipped to another page. These messages span several months, he said. Not just a single conversation. Then he read another one aloud. I'll tell her the marriage isn't working. She'll probably apologize like always. A few people in the audience looked uncomfortable. The judge continued. Another message to the same contact. Once she leaves, the house will be mine anyway. My ex's lawyer shifted nervously. For months they had been telling the court that I abandoned the marriage. But now the evidence was telling a different story. The judge set the papers down again. Then he looked directly at both lawyers. Based on these messages, he said, I believe the court needs to reconsider who actually caused the breakdown of this marriage. For the first time that day, my ex looked truly worried. The judge leaned back slightly in his chair. The courtroom was completely silent now. No whispers. No murmurs. Just tension. My ex's lawyer quickly stood up again. Your Honor, he said carefully, even if these messages exist, they do not necessarily prove fault in the divorce. The judge nodded slowly. You're correct. For a moment, it sounded like the pressure had lifted. But then the judge picked up another document. This court also received financial records. My ex's head lifted quickly. The judge continued. These records show that during the last year of the marriage, he paused for a second. Significant amounts of money were transferred from the couple's joint account. The room grew tense again. The judge looked down at the paper. And those transfers were not made by the wife. All eyes slowly turned toward my ex. His lawyer froze beside him. Because suddenly, this divorce case was becoming something much bigger than just accusations. The judge leaned forward. He placed the messages and financial records in front of my ex-husband. Your repeated claims that she caused this divorce, the judge said calmly, are not supported by evidence. In fact, he paused, letting the courtroom absorb the weight of his words. These messages, combined with financial documents, suggest otherwise. The court is concerned that the responsibility for the breakdown has been misrepresented. My ex-husband shifted uncomfortably. His lawyer whispered something, but the judge raised a hand. Everyone here deserves the truth, he continued. And it is evident that the blame cannot be placed solely on the wife. The courtroom felt heavy with tension. People who had quietly judged me for months now realized the story they had believed might have been completely wrong. For the first time that day, I felt a glimmer of relief. The judge motioned for the courtroom clerk. He handed over the rest of the messages. This includes messages sent to friends, colleagues, and family during the last year of the marriage, he explained. My ex-husband tried to protest. These are private, he exclaimed. The judge's voice was firm. They are part of the evidence. The court must hear the full context. One by one, the judge read the messages aloud. I need a break from this tension. I can't handle this anymore. I wish she would just leave. The words painted a clear picture. A picture that contradicted every claim my ex-husband's family had made. Whispers traveled through the courtroom. People who had believed his story were now questioning everything. And I sat quietly, finally realizing that the truth was unfolding. Then the judge did something unexpected. He looked directly at my ex-husband. Do you wish to provide your own explanation? He opened his mouth, paused, closed it again. No words came out. The judge nodded slowly, then addressed the courtroom. It is clear from these messages that the responsibility for the marital breakdown is shared and not solely the wife's fault. My ex's family shifted uncomfortably. Some faces turned red. Others avoided eye contact. For the first time, the truth was being spoken publicly. I could feel the energy in the room change. The narrative that had blamed me for months was collapsing in real time. And I finally felt a sense of validation I had been waiting for. Then the judge did something unexpected. He looked directly at my ex-husband. Do you wish to provide your own explanation? He opened his mouth, paused, closed it again. No words came out. The judge nodded slowly, then addressed the courtroom. It is clear from these messages that the responsibility for the marital breakdown is shared and not solely the wife's fault. My ex's family shifted uncomfortably. Some faces turned red. Others avoided eye contact. For the first time, the truth was being spoken publicly. I could feel the energy in the room change. The narrative that had blamed me for months was collapsing in real time. And I finally felt a sense of validation I had been waiting for. The judge placed the papers down. Furthermore, he said, the messages demonstrate repeated mistreatment, manipulation, and attempts to shift blame. My ex-husband looked stunned. His lawyer whispered, but the judge motioned for silence. Court records, combined with these messages, make it clear that the accusations against the wife were exaggerated and misleading. The audience in the courtroom leaned forward. Even my mother-in-law looked shocked. The judge continued. This court encourages honesty and accountability. Attempts to misrepresent the truth will not succeed. I sat quietly, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Finally, someone in authority had acknowledged what I already knew. I was not to blame. And for the first time in months, I felt heard. The hearing concluded. The judge dismissed the courtroom with one final note. Let this be a reminder that truth, evidence, and fairness will always hold more weight than rumor and accusation. My ex-husband left silently. No words. No excuses. I stepped outside and took a deep breath. The sunlight felt warmer. The air felt lighter. Months of judgment, whispers, and misplaced blame had finally ended. The truth had been read aloud, and justice, in the form of recognition, was finally mine. For anyone who doubted themselves, or felt unfairly blamed, this is proof. Truth always speaks louder. Truth.